Hi, I'm Will from Venture to Rome, and I have two almost identical tents on my two almost identical Jeeps with one big difference. One of these tents costs $4,000, while the other one costs $1,200. And in this video, I'm gonna compare their specs, their fit and finish, their layout, and the value of each of these tents directly to each other and tell you which one I think you should buy. So stick around to the end because you might be surprised. Overlanding is an expensive hobby. I mean, if I added up all the money I've spent on rig modifications and gear over the years, I'd probably cry myself to sleep in my rooftop tent, in my 0-degree sleeping bag with a heated blanket and diesel heater running. You see what I mean? There's so much stuff out there. There's so many things that you can buy, and some of them are very expensive and some of them are very cheap. You've probably heard of the overlanding tax, right? If you put the word overlanding on it, it immediately costs twice as much as something else that doesn't have that word on it. So that's what I'm gonna explore today with these two rooftop tents. One of them was $4,000, one of them is $1,200. They're almost exactly the same design. And so let's go take a look at these two very similar but different tents. Whew, it's a little bit of a rainy day here in Boise, but we're gonna do this anyway. And actually it's good to see these tents in the weather because that's when it's really important that they do what they say they're gonna do. So meet my two rooftop tents. The first one here is the Falcon Roofnest Pro, and the other is the Topoak Galaxy tent. Now, the first thing to note is if you're going to buy a wedge style tent, which is what these are, get one of these. These are a little bit different design that give you way more space on the inside. They're a wedge that also has a pop out. So this gives you way more headroom. It allows you to sleep either way for the most part. It doesn't take much longer to set up, and it's just better than regular wedge tents. So let's start with the dimensions on these things, and I'll walk you through where they're different and where they're the same. Okay, so first let's just talk basic dimensions of these two tents. The Roofnest here is 83 inches long by 54 inches wide, and when it's fully deployed, there's 60 inches of headroom in there, so it's 60 inches high. Now when it's closed up, it's only 8 inches thick. So the Topoak here is pretty close, but there's a few differences. It's also 83 inches long. It's 56 inches wide, so just a little bit wider than the Roofnest. When it's fully deployed, there's 56 inches of headroom in there, so it's 56 inches tall, which is about 6 inches less than the Roofnest. So you don't have quite as much room in the Topoak. But when it's closed, it's still 8 inches thick, just like the Roofnest. The materials used are really similar. They're both aluminum framed and aluminum sided tents. The difference is the Roofnest has this stamped concrete, which allows for, so they say, a little more room to store stuff in. Now the Topoak is kind of your standard flat aluminum siding in these tents, so it doesn't look any different. There's nothing special about it except that it's aluminum. Now the weight on these is slightly different. The Roofnest weighs 180 pounds and the Topoak is 176 pounds with everything in it. Now the weight measurement of the Roofnest does not include the ladder, and I think the Topoak does, so check me on that, but I think the Topoak weight measurement includes that. So this is a little bit lighter. This is somewhere around 10 to 15 pounds lighter as a tent, so that's just less weight sitting on top of your roof. All right, let's talk a little bit about the hardware. You can see that the Topoak has 4 hinges on it, and they just look like standard hinges to me. They don't look like anything special. On the Roofnest, there's 3 hinges on it. Again, I don't know if they're anything special or not. What I do like about the Topoak hinges is that they're black. The Roofnest ones are shiny chrome, and they kind of drive me crazy. It looks to me like there's sirens on the top of my car. So like when I'm taking pictures of my rig for a thumbnail or something for YouTube, I generally like use Photoshop and like erase the hinges because I just don't like the way they look. Now that's totally aesthetic, that's not functional at all. I don't know if there's actually a functional difference, but one has 4, one has 3. Now the latches on the other side, the latches that you use to close the tent are both pretty similar. I really do like the Roofnest latches better. They seem a little beefier and they really pull that thing down tight. The latches on the Topoak are also good. They're just not quite as beefy, but so far they get the job done. And they both have the ability to put a lock on there. So if you wanted to make sure that that thing didn't come undone when you're going 80 miles down the interstate or something like that, you can lock it, but it doesn't require a lock, which I love about both of them. So I really don't like the tents that force you to lock it, because there are times when I just don't want to lock it. It's such a pain in the butt sometimes when I'm packing up camp to have to unlock and lock that thing. So the ability to lock it, but not the requirement to lock it, is something I like about both tents. Whew, feels good to get out of that rain a little bit and dry off, which is a good opportunity to talk about the canvas differences between the two because they are slightly different. So the Roofnest is a 320 GSM polycotton canvas that has 300 millimeter waterproofing on it, which is kind of a standard waterproofing that's for, I would say, light to moderate rain. The Topoak, on the other hand, I don't know exactly what the material is. I can't find it. It says it's like a polycotton or a polyester blend or of some sort, but I could find out that it's a 5,000 millimeter waterproofing, which is the very low end of like heavy rain. So it's rated to take heavy rain, whereas the Roofnest isn't rated to take super heavy rain in terms of the waterproofing of the material. But you know as well as I do that a lot of that kind of waterproofing stuff comes down to the rain fly that's on top, if you've sealed everything up, if it has taped seals or tape seams on the zippers and things like that. And both of the tents have that. And then it's just a matter of how they shed water, the design, and if there's going to be water that's going to pool anywhere. So let's take a quick look at that. So without going back out onto the rain, which we will in a second when I climb up there and take you inside the tents, let's talk about the different shells. So as you can see on the Topoak, it's a pretty smooth design. There's not any seam that goes around or ledge that goes around the top of it, which is good because that's where water could pool. And then there could be some kind of over time, like, you know, UV rays sometimes deteriorating, caulking that might be up there, and that's where leaks start. So the Topoak has a flat design that has no room for pooling that I can tell. The Roofnest, on the other hand, is a stamped aluminum top, which is really cool in a lot of ways. And from the looks of it, it's designed to shed water. So for me, I don't see any kind of hard edges or places where water could pool. There are some grooves in it where waters could pool, but there's no seam. So there's no way for that water to like get in somewhere before it sheds off the side of the top of it. So the good news is I don't really see any weak points for leaking in terms of precipitation on either of these tents. Okay, in terms of hardware, they're both really similar in terms of like what they send you. They send you mounting hardware, which includes kind of a, you know, your standard rooftop tent U-bolt. Topoak has a rubberized one, which is kind of nice, so it gets a little bit better grip on whatever crossbar you're putting it on. They also send you with these wing nuts that are hand tightened. So this is one I've been using for a long time. It is a lawnmower handle wing nut. And what it does is it allows you to put this on with your hand. You just reach under your tent and screw this on and hand tighten it and get it really, really tight with your hand instead of using, you know, a wrench and one of those nylock bolts that just take forever. This you can just like spin on and then, you know, get it up there and get it really, really tight. I've been using those for a long time on all my other tents because I like to take my tents on and off. I don't like to leave my tent on all the time. And I like that Topoak has figured that out. It's a real nice benefit. They also send you with the nylock nuts as well, or the nylock, yeah, nuts, bolts, nuts. And so you can do that if you want to. Some people think that's a better, tighter fit that has less chance of becoming loose, which there's probably some truth to that. I just haven't had any issues with these ever. I've been using them for years. The other thing that they both send you is roof racks. So they both have those T-slots on the side. They have let's see, on the top, they have one T-slot that goes all the way around, and on the bottom they have two. And so you can put these, I don't know, roof racks or crossbars up there. This is the one from Roofnest. You see, I haven't opened them. This stuff is lost on me because I don't really use these. Maybe I will someday. But for those who want to put stuff on top of their tent, it's really, really great. Roofnest sends you a couple of extras as well. They send you, or they sent me anyway, a privacy tent, which was a total surprise to me, and I thought that was really cool. They also send you with a little mat that you put at the bottom of your ladder, just something you can leave your shoes on or you can wipe your feet off on before you come up, which I thought was really, really nice. And they give you a couple of extra bags, I think, like shoe bags or hanging bags that can go inside your tent or outside your tent. I don't use them. You know, it's just these things, again, are lost on me because I don't like to have anything hanging from my tent. I like a really fast pack up. I'll leave my shoes on the ground or under the Jeep sometimes, which has, you know, can create problems. I had a mouse eat through my flip-flops one night and I had to drive into town to get new shoes one day because I didn't bring any other shoes. So putting them in a bag is probably a good idea. I just don't do it, so those things are lost on me. They both have almost the exact same ladder, and they both give you a bag for that ladder, which I think is really important. It's kind of an overlooked thing, but when you're out in any kind of inclement weather, you're tracking stuff on your shoes, And when you climb up and down on the ladder, those rungs of the ladder start taking up that mud and dirt and dust and everything. And if you don't have a bag to put it in, then all that stuff's gonna go in wherever you put your ladder. I like to leave my ladder in the tent, so that would go in the tent on the mattress, create a big mess. Even if you're putting it in the back of your truck or in the back of your Jeep, all that dirt's gonna go with the ladder. So the fact that they have a bag you can put it in to keep that dirt from getting out and on everything else until you get home and wash the ladder off is really nice. And I really like that they both do it. One of the extras that Topoak sends you is an insulation layer or blanket. And this one's really simple. It goes on the floor. It's almost like a moving blanket, but it's cut to the shape of the tent. So you just put it on top of your anti-condensation layer underneath the mattress and provides another layer of insulation, and it increases your R value, and it's just a really nice thing. It's really easy to take in and out. So some tents have these kind of big insulated zip-in things that you put in there, and I've had that before and I just never use it because it's such a pain in the butt, and usually you can't leave your stuff in there if you do that. So the idea of putting in just a little layer of insulation that increases your R value is really easy to take in and out, I think is really clever, and frankly, it's really nice. Okay, this is the inside of the Roofnest, and this is where I think it really shines. Let me show you around. So this is the pop-out design I've been telling you about. What you can see is there's this frame here that folds out, and then there's a brace that connects to the shell that keeps this thing open, and it gives you, you know, instead of having the canvas kind of come up this way, it gives you all this extra headspace, which is so nice. Both tents have this. The Roofnest has about 6 inches extra of headspace over the Topoak. So that's, to me, that's a clear win. You've got a little more headspace in here, but this design in general is gonna give you way more space in a wedge that has this internal frame and pop out than in one that doesn't. So this fabric that Roofnest uses on the inside is really nice. It's almost like it's coated with PVC or something. So it's really, really dark in here. So dark that sometimes it's actually a little scary. Like, you want to know that you're not in some kind of, you know, black hole. It's fantastic. They have these LED lights that run on either side of the tent and are fantastic. They plug right into the pocket over there, so it's very convenient to bring an external battery, just put it in there and plug it in, and you've got light inside your tent that would otherwise be very, very dark because of this blackout material. So this is the skylight, and this is something I think maybe they overlooked in the design because it's got the support bar running through it, which means that to open up the skylight, you gotta kind of work around that bar, which, you know, it's nice to have that skylight there. It's a great skylight, but having the bar running through the middle of it does create a bit of a problem when you're trying to open and close it. Now, I've slept in this thing both ways. This is the setup where you're sleeping with your head close to like the hinge, and this hinge comes up enough that actually works. It's not the best, but it actually works, and you can have your feet going the other way, so it's easier to get out and go to the bathroom at night. Or if you're the first one up in the morning like me, it's just easier to get out of the tent. A lot of people sleep with the pillows on the other side because it's just a lot more headroom. So on the inside, this is not like your standard kind of quilt that a lot of companies put on there. It's like a molded fabric they put on the back. And this thing is one of my favorite pieces of the tent, to be honest. It's their 6-pocket organization system, but you'll see that middle pocket up there is clear. So what you can do is you can drop your iPad in there and press play, have your Bluetooth headphones on, and sit back and watch a movie from your bed at night, which is really, really nice. The mattress is a 2.5-inch thick memory foam mattress, and it is, as far as mattresses go, it's nice. It's, you know, firm. The memory foam, you know, is a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it does provide you a pretty good cushion, but when you lay on it for a while, you kind of get a butt mold or a, you know, leg mold. And you kind of do slowly kind of sink into it. On the underside of this is a nice condensation mat or anti-condensation mat. So that gives you just a little more cushion and also gives you that much needed ventilation. So you're not getting a wet mattress when it's super cold outside and you wake up in the morning and it's raining in your tent. You'll see these pockets as well. And one of the features of these pockets is you can remove them. So I'm not sure why they want you to remove those, but you can. There's toggles, little toggle connectors there. You can remove those if you want, but it's really nice to have pockets here and pockets over there because you might be sleeping either direction, and there's batteries, there's water bottles, there's cell phones, and it's really nice to have access to those right next to your pillow. So that's the inside of the Roofnest. Let's go compare it to the Topoak. This is the inside of the Topoak. It's really similar, but there are a few differences. So come on over and I'll show you. So over here in the Topoak, you'll see that it is not blackout material. It's more of a gray material, which, you know, if you like that, if you like sleeping in late in the summer in Idaho when the sun comes up at like 5:30 in the morning, you're gonna like the blackout a little bit more if that's when you're camping. If you like to kind of not feel like you're in a black hole, then maybe the gray is better. But one of the things that's really important to see here is that these are the same pockets that the Roofnest had, except that they're built in, which I actually like better. And you can see the tape seams just to keep the waterproofing up. See that kind of all throughout the tent in here. Another really important difference is that the framing is different. So what you'll have in this tent is you will have 2 support poles coming down from the top of the tent and connecting to that internal frame that gives you that pop out and gives you all that extra space. So on one hand, it's not as good because it takes you twice as long to set it up, which is not very long. But on the other hand, it opens up your skylight so you don't have a bar running through it. What you're seeing in the frame there is not the bar, that's the strap that's just hanging on top. But you've got this, you know, no conflict with that support bar because they're on either side instead of running down the middle. The disadvantage to that is when you're setting this tent up, you have to climb all the way in, get all the way across it to get that support thing up. Whereas on the Roofnest, you can kind of just stay on the ladder and lean in and get it set up that way. So it's a little bit faster to set up on the Roofnest. And I like that I don't have to crawl in because sometimes I just want the tent to be set up so it can air out. I don't want to like get in it and move things around, have to get back out of it. So I do think that having the skylight free of obstructions is really, really great. But I do, you know, it's a trade-off. I do like being able to set it up just a little bit faster. But let me say this, both are fast to set up. They're very fast to set up. We're talking about 30 seconds, maybe even less when you get good at it. So it's not like it's gonna make or break anything or like something that becomes like really annoying over time. It's just a little teeny tweak, personal preference of mine. You'll see the Topoak has one LED light that runs across the top, and the cord just kind of comes down and hangs here, whereas the cords in the Roofnest are kind of wired down into those pockets. So this one you have to do a little bit more work or figure out how you want to run that cable. Honestly, I think one LED light is enough. It's nice that there's 2 in the Roofnest, but I never turn 2 on. I only ever need 1. So I don't think that's a real pro or con. It's just a difference. And then over here, you'll see it has the same pocket there, same pocket there. I'm not sure you could sleep with your head there. That's pretty tight. The angle's just not quite as opened up as the Roofnest, but maybe you could. I haven't tried it yet. Plenty of room here. I'm 6'1". I got lots of room, lots of headroom and footroom. This is another 6 pockets organizer, which I think is great. It's kind of strapped in there the same way as the Roofnest, except that it's a little bit lower. So it's, on one hand, it's a little bit easier to access stuff that's in there because it's lower on that ceiling, but it does not have the clear pocket in the middle. So there is no movie watching pocket with this one, which, depending on how you want to sleep in your tent, is a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, let's look at the mattress. So this is a 2-inch memory foam mattress. And I will say that it does feel like memory foam to me. Definitely feels like it's thinner. And it's not quite as dense, if you ask me. Has a little more give to it. It's a little softer memory foam. And then you'll see underneath here is this extra layer of insulation I was talking about, which is really cool. It's almost like a moving blanket. I don't know, maybe it's 1/8 of an inch or so. And then underneath that you have the anti-condensation mat, which is nice to have in both. So I do like that they throw this in though, just, you know, just a little extra padding, a little extra insulation to keep you warm or cool. The fabric in here is really just your standard rooftop tent fabric, that kind of quilt. It's very, very similar. It's same over on the Roofnest as well, except that same fabric is running on the ceiling here, and it's just a very thin layer of fabric, whereas the Roofnest has kind of that molded fabric stuff that has a little extra insulation value to it. So, you know, Topoak gives you extra insulation down here. Roofnest gives you a little bit extra insulation up there. So trade-off. So both tents have these massive windows. I think they're almost exactly the same with both of these tents. They've got two of these huge windows, and they've got a huge window and door in the front with a huge skylight on top. So if you want to have a bunch of light in either of these tents, it's there for you. I think, you know, the problem is the shape of these windows, and it's the same with both. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to get in and out because the angle of these windows is pretty severe on both sides, just to get your fingers in there and like get the zippers. But the fact that it gives you this much light and space makes the tent, when you're, you know, when you have it all opened up, feel much, much bigger. And I'll tell you, in the Roofnest, I camped above the town of Pahrump in Nevada, and we left these windows open with just the screens closed all night because it was so warm, and we were looking down on the city lights as we were sleeping or in bed. It was one of the coolest things I've ever done because these windows were so big. It was almost like having a picture frame in the tent to like watch the city lights all night. Anyway, great windows on both. So you can see that these two tents do have some differences, but they're very, very similar. So here's the question: which one do I think you should buy? To answer that question, I'm going to tell you a little story about when I first started overlanding. So when we first got into this, we knew we wanted a rooftop tent. We didn't want to sleep on the ground. We wanted a fast setup. We have a Jeep, so we wanted to be able to keep our bedding inside you know, a tent, which is all the reasons that we wanted to have a rooftop tent. And I looked at all the options, and I decided to buy a Smittybilt Overlander XL, which was a soft shell budget rooftop tent, because I knew it was going to be big enough for the whole family, the four of us, and it was only $800, which is still a lot for a tent in general. Like, you know, you don't spend $800 on a ground tent, but for a rooftop tent, it was pretty affordable. And my thinking was, I get that tent, use it, see how it is, see how I like it, and, you know, at some point, if we wanted to get another rooftop tent, a different kind, we could do that. And so I chose to go budget first. Then I learned what I want, and then I got very different tents. Now I have completely different tents. So I think if you're just getting into overlanding and you're thinking about where to start, it makes a lot of sense to start with a budget option, especially when you've got a budget option that has the value that the Topoak has. I think these are on Amazon or on their website for $1,200. If you use the code in the description below, Topoak will give you another 10% off, so you can save an extra $100 or so. Which gets that price down to a place where you can make a mistake. Because if you make a $4,000 mistake with your first tent, that's a pretty steep hill to climb if you're wrong. If you make a $1,200 mistake with your first tent, it's just a little easier to kind of get out of that deal if you need to like sell your tent for reasonably cheap to get rid of it to get something else, or you decide that you don't like rooftop tents, you don't like overlanding. It's just a little bit easier, a little bit lower risk to start with a budget tent like the Topoak. Now, if you're somebody who has had a budget tent, who's been overlanding for a while, who kind of knows what you want, and you've been eyeing the Roofnest Falcon Pro, let me tell you, it's a great tent. It is a fantastic tent, and it's come down in price a little bit. It's not $4,000 anymore on the website. Last I checked, it was more like in the mid threes. And so it's still expensive, but it's not quite as expensive as it used to be when I bought it. Now, really what it gives you is R&D and a design that works really, really well. So the fact that you can store so much bedding in there, the mattress is a 1/2 inch thicker and the memory foam is a little bit nicer. And let me tell you, after 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 nights in a tent, mattress matters a ton. And so you can swap out the mattresses. You can go buy a Hest or, you know, X-Pet or something like that. And change out the mattress that's in there. But the fact that it comes with something that's pretty comfortable already, and it's pretty thick mattress, and everything just kind of works, and it has that super blackout, taped seams, even the zippers are taped in there. You know, they've just really thought through that design, and it works really, really well. So if that's something that you're thinking about, I'll tell you this, I do not have buyer's remorse for the Roofnest Falcon Pro. I do not. I think it's a fantastic tent, and I'm going to continue to use it. So to summarize, if you're new and looking at tents, or you just have a budget that's really, really tight, definitely consider the Topoak. If you are somebody who knows what you want, who's been eyeing the Roofnest, well, I hope you got a really good look at it. And my opinion is it's a great tent to buy. You can buy either tent or both if you want to by clicking the links in the description of this video right now. And like I said with Topoak, there's a 10% discount if you use the code that's in there. I am not done reviewing rooftop tents. I got a lot to review. I got a lot of tents that I've had, that I have, that need to be compared, and that information needs to be shared with you. So if that's the kind of information that you're looking for, please subscribe to the channel. We have a goal of hitting 50,000 subscribers, and every one counts. It doesn't cost you anything, and it really helps the channel. Until next time, I'm Will from Venture to Rome. Thanks for watching.